What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today's Best Served Podcast 349. We're talking my heritage through my food with Nite of Nyum Bai in Oakland, California. You've seen this series. We're talking to all the chefs from the virtual Heritage Dinner series that's a part of In the Weeds Menu Meeting Fall 2021 campaign. You've seen us omnipresent everywhere. We're doing these video casts, clubhouses, articles, Instagram takeovers, communicating everywhere in all the ways that hospitality professionals are needing and wanting to connect. And so we're excited about continuing this. We're in week 3, so lots of amazing content. Elle Jarvis, founder of In the Weeds, has been really helping drive this new narrative of how we support the physical, financial, and mental health of hospitality professionals, and really inspiring conversation. So I want to bring Elle in to kind of set the table for us. Elle, good as always to see you at your seaside villa there. I love it. The background looks fake to me every time I see you. But how's the beach today?
The beach is wonderful today. The sun came out. The birds are chirping.
Perfect. What a great day to talk about heritage, to be inspired by Nite and the work that's happening. Before we get into all of that, In the Weeds, break it down for us a little bit, and specifically heritage. I'm fascinated. We talk about, the physical, financial, and mental health. Obviously, that's foundational, and we've struggled with that in the industry. Yet bringing heritage and this storytelling and connectivity, humanity into what we're doing in hospitality has been so inspiring and so fundamentally important. So kind of break that down for us a little bit.
Yeah. So In the Weeds, we were incorporated last October 2020. We got our 501c3 status in 3 weeks. I don't know how we did it, but our mission is to champion the physical, financial, and mental health of the hospitality professional. And it was a project that I was working on pre-pandemic that obviously came to the front burner in March of 2020. But with this In the Weeds project becoming real, I also moved home after being away for 20 years and started cooking again. And as I started doing pop-ups and dinner parties and being back with my family full time, growing up in this industry, missing Sunday suppers and baby showers and weddings and just Friday night, pizza night, being able to have that space with my family and explore how we communicate with each other through food was really powerful for me. And I thought, I've been running, grinding for 20 years, and to have the space to really dive into my heritage through food and recognizing all of my adventures and travels impact my food, being home and working with the seasonal ingredients that I grew up with, and fostering relationships with my lobstermen and my fishermen and my farmers and all the folks that I grew up with that are still in the industry that also were pretty hard hit by the pandemic. I thought to myself, shoot, like there are 100% so many other people who have already come to grips or grappled for better or worse with their heritage and how it comes through on the plate.
Truth.
So I just thought it was such a pressing and important time to have these conversations across the country with other, as it turns out, all female chefs that have maybe already done the work and already gone on that journey and, have made a career for themselves through expressing their heritage on the plate. And I'm just so excited and humbled to have this conversation with Nite today.
Yes. That grappling that you mentioned with, I think, is very important. Caroline Glover from Annette mentioned running away from being a white girl from Texas and not embracing because she didn't feel like she had any cultural heritage of importance on the plate. And then being able to speak to her father about their Irish and German and British heritage, I think is powerful. Or for me, grappling was, being Hapa, having a Japanese grandmother when I was growing up. It was not cool to be Asian. We had weird things in our refrigerator. We always had a pot of rice going. And so I ran away from it. I felt privileged to be white enough and have a white enough name and be tall and all these things that meant that I was less Asian. And so there's a struggle. There's an internal struggle a little bit. And so I appreciate you kind of creating this space for both just the pure joy and the struggle to come about. So I want to bring Nite on now, who is fighting
Right.
an amazing fight, Cambodian culture and cuisine at the forefront. I am so fired up about this because it's a culture that I don't know enough about and that I want to learn about. And I'm excited that you're going to tell me about, you already have in a clubhouse that we did, tell me about foods, ingredients, dishes that I have no concept of. And I'm excited about the notion of that. I want to be a little bit uncomfortable. I want to learn how to pronounce new things. It's that exploration. And so yourself and Joshua Wolbutt from Love Food More, also Cambodian, have been teaching me, and I'm excited. So before we get into the heritage kind of at large for you and your journey, tell us though about Nyum Bai and what's been happening for you since you started the restaurant in Oakland. Give us a little bit of the origin story there.
Well, Jensen, you have to make it out to Oakland to try Nyum Bai. Then you'll find out what Cambodian
Yes.
food is all about. But yeah, I started Nyum Bai about 5 years ago, cooking from my kitchen, and through pop ups and things like that. But I had a very opposite experience. Like my family fled Cambodia from the war, and I was born in the refugee camp in Thailand.
Wow.
And so when we ended up, in America, we came to Stockton, California, and I was very proud of my heritage, even though things around me were weird and different. But I didn't think I was the weird or different one, even though my family ate rice using our hands and we ate like fermented fish.
Yep.
My school lunches was always weird, but I never thought that I was the weird one. I looked around me, I'm like, why are they eating like sandwiches and chips and things like that? So I always had a sense of pride of being Cambodian, and that stuck with me, throughout, till now. And then hence that's why I started Nyum Bai, because I was just so proud and amazed, like with the resilience of the culture and the people when I went back to Cambodia, and I wanted to honor it somehow. And learning about my family's stories and their struggles, how they made it out here to America. I was trying to figure out a way to share this beautiful culture. And it was kind of obvious to me at one point when I said, well, what's the best way to really communicate and break down barriers than through food?
Yep.
And so with that, when I came, my timeline's sort of all over the place right now, but during my I think it was my 6th trip to Cambodia, I had this epiphany of opening up a Cambodian restaurant, celebrating Cambodian cuisine and also the golden era of Cambodia. And this golden era is around the 50s and 60s, where my parents were at its, they were in their youth, living this carefree life. And I just want to kind of encapsulate that through this music and art scene that was thriving in Cambodia. 2 things to also mention, like a lot of people know about the genocide in Cambodia or the Angkor Wat, but yet people don't know about this beautiful history of art and music. So I wanted to celebrate that with Nyum Bai. And here we are.
and what's it been, 5 years, right? Just to give people a little context of how long you've been operating.
Yes. Yeah. Talking about crazy timeline, like we're going on our 5th year,
which is a lifetime in the restaurant industry, and especially in these times. So I can appreciate that. I'm always fascinated, especially with the immigrant story. First generation, a lot of times, like you're going to college, you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. Education is the unlock. Like this is the place where you don't have to be blue collar just because you're an immigrant. These are the opportunities created. We hear that a lot. What was the conversations like with your family? Were they all in, supportive, love the idea of it? Were they hesitant? Was it like, there's no way in hell you're doing this? Give us an idea of the kind of the family relationship dynamic there.
Well, in the beginning, I actually went to school for nursing, and just because I thought it was something practical, but my parents never really told me like you need to be a doctor or a lawyer. The only thing that they stressed out the most was get an education. And I think this is because my mom grew up, in a really strict household, and she didn't want me to feel pressured in doing something that I didn't want to do. So this kind of allowed me just to kind of explore different things, creatively, or just traveling and things like that. So what happened was during my rotation in nursing school, I actually ended up dropping out. and
Yeah.
and the first person I called was my mom because I just was so unhappy. I remember clearly with this patient taking his vital, and I'm like, I don't even care about this person right
Oh
now.
no,
This is
right.
so
You had lost the
completely wrong.
empathy.
I did. Well, learning it
Mhm.
and everything was completely different. But then within like the last few months of rotation, I'm like, this is not me. I had on like scrubs were ugly. The lighting was bad. I'm like, I just didn't want to be here. Like, this is the smallest detail. And so I called my mom and said, you know what, mom, I think I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to drop out. And she's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know yet. And the following week, I actually called her. I'm like, I need to go to Cambodia. So I charged the plane ticket on my credit card. And she's like, okay,
There you
and so that's
go.
how it all started. And then, like did various projects throughout the years. And she's like, okay, and so when I told her about Nyum Bai, she's like, oh, this is probably just one of her fun project. And my parents didn't believe me until I actually even opened up the restaurant.
Right. It's real
that,
now.
that,
Look,
that it's real.
yes.
Because they were so shocked that people wanted to eat Cambodian food because in a way they're like, well, no one really knows anything about Cambodia. Like the food is like really funky. If you go to any Cambodian restaurant here in the country, they kind of mix it with Thai cuisine, a little bit of Chinese or Vietnamese to make it familiar. And so I'm like, no, this is completely different. This is why Nyum Bai exists, because this is the food you cooked for me. This is the food that I learned from grandma. This is the food that I learned how to cook in the village in Cambodia. This is what I'm doing. And so like, okay, do your thing. And then
Here we go.
and so I think they are super supportive and they do believe in what I'm doing now.
They
Because
get it
there's an
now. 5
actual
years later, they're
physical
like,
space.
oh, she is really, really serious about this thing.
Yeah.
A couple things. Nyum Bai, what's the name mean? What does it represent?
So Nyum Bai means the literal translation means eat rice. But it's
Yes.
also means let's eat or come eat.
Okay.
Nyum Bai is something that my mom would always say to my friends when they would come over. Like, I don't know you, but come eat Nyum Bai, Nyum Bai. And so our house, like when we were in high school, my mom would always cook a big pot of noodle soup. And it just became a thing with my friends. They would come over the weekend and my mom would just say, Nyum Bai, Nyum Bai. And to me, that's just like, her truest like way of welcoming someone. She doesn't really say much, but like through her cooking and it just makes people feel really comfortable and warm and inviting.
Oh, I appreciate that. For us, it's itadakimasu, which is kind of that similar greeting in Japanese.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that. It's that rallying cry. You hear it and you just instantly start salivating. It's time to eat. It's time to gather around the table. So so much respect for that. What a great way to celebrate your family, your heritage. Very personal to you as well, which I think is great. It sounds like I know the answer to this. It was food always a part of your family? As far as like, you had the grandmother, the aunties, mom, dads were, cooking as well. Like, was it always a part of everything? Yes, for sure. Absolutely. It wasn't like you were going off in this realm of cooking food when nobody had an understanding of it.
No, yeah, we love to eat. Our family loved to eat.
Right.
My dad
families are the ones that love to eat.
Yeah, my mom also loves to eat. I mean, when my dad cooks, it's just game over. Everyone just stops what they're doing and just like they're ready to eat. Yeah, because my mom didn't learn how to cook until she had to when she came to the States, and she cooked just from like memories of like, oh, this is what I remembered going to this. But my dad was like, okay, this is what I learned from your grandma. And so, eating was just a big part of our family. It's time for us to just get together, connect, talk about the day and throughout, because of me being in the kitchen with my mom growing up, that's how I learned how to cook Cambodian food as well. And, when I was in elementary school, it's like I learned how to like cut lemongrass, use mortar and pesto and gutted a fish and things like that. So food was always a big thing in our family.
And I was interested in this dynamic. Is it a little bit competitive do sometimes you cook the dishes that mom or that dad cooks and you have it on the menu? And is there a little bit of like a head nod when you get it just right, or a little bit of like, could have used a little bit more lemongrass? Any of that kind of stuff going on?
In the beginning, but my parents were just so supportive that they just like
they trust you now. You got it.
And kind of suffered a little bit, because when I look at the bowl in the beginning, they're like, how come they didn't even finish anything? But throughout the years, like, they were, I could tell that they enjoyed it, because when they came to the restaurant this one time, they actually ordered food to take home. And my dad told my mom, like, hey, tell Nite I'm really proud of her cooking. So
that's so great. That means so much, just for you, obviously, with the trajectory that it took for all of you to even be at the place where they could be dining at your restaurant in America. It's just so meaningful. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Let's talk about the dinner a little bit. Elle, again, set the table for us here. Dinner coming up, virtual heritage dinner. Kind of lay out the full series, because I think it's important for people to understand the context of how ambitious and exciting it is, what we all are a part of. And then let's talk about the specifics of nights, and then we'll talk about the menu itself.
Sure. Before I get there, I just want to share like how that just like pulled at my heartstrings so greatly, of Dad just being like, I'm proud of her food. I did a pop up at the local brewery this past Friday, and I put striped bass chowder on the menu, which is something my dad always made this time of year because it's the end of striper season, and he would freeze the base. And I just sort of recreated it from memory and added lobster knuckles and a lot of like bonds and oregano, and it's a very thin chowder. And at the last minute, my parents were able to come to the dinner, and like watching him with the bowl in his face, and like when I came out, it was pisser. And I'm like, oh, that's like, that's what I did good. Like, it's just such a fuzzy feeling to be able to like find your way in this industry and see those moments of pride from our parents that are on their taste buds. It's so powerful. So thank you for sharing that. The dinner is October 31st. It's Halloween. Start thinking about your costumes. It'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you'll have plenty of time to go out and party after, get a nice good Cambodian base and some tidy martinis with Junipero gin. He partnered with Shaker and Spoon, so you can add on a Shaker and Spoon cocktail kit. Junipero gin is offering free shipping and 10% off on their website if you use the code INTHEWEEDS. The pickup location in Oakland will be at our retail partner Alkali Rye, which is a really phenomenal bottle shop.
Yeah, they're
really awesome bottle shop in Oakland. So everything's on our website, www.intheweeds.us/let's-party. All of the tickets for all of the different time zones are all listed there. Go to Nite's, smash that checkout button. $20 from each ticket benefits In the Weeds, and the rest is able to cover food and labor cost for Nite and Nyum Bai.
Nice. And zoom out a little bit, because we're in the Pacific time zone, the last of the series, but you're going time zone by time zone across the entire country. So many dynamic voices, talents, unbelievable leaders for our industry. And as you mentioned, all female chefs, boys, we need to shut up, sit down, eat, and do as we're told, because these are the absolute leaders for the future of our industry. That's when it comes to heritage and all things that we need to be paying attention to, storytelling, the way that we're composing ourselves as individuals, as businesses, as professionals. So I really appreciate what you've pulled together.
And well, the original heritage dinner that was supposed to take place in Aspen, it was all, women, female chefs, but we didn't bill it as a women in whites dinner or an all-female chef lineup. I really wanted consumers and PR folks to just figure that out on their own, because like straight white dudes have been doing this forever, and they don't call it the straight white dude dinner.
Yeah. Right? That's true.
They call it dinner.
The old straight white dudes dinner has dominated for far too long.
So it's like that was like a big deal for me, is really putting a list of talent together that was important. I don't believe that we're going to be able to fill physical, financial, mental health buckets without the female voices in the room. We cannot create a truly diverse, equitable, and inclusionary hospitality industry unless we are amplifying these voices. And it really wasn't performative. A lot of the talent that was brought in through recommendations and other folks being like, Nite became involved because Caroline became involved. Cicely became involved because Cha was on board. I feel very fortunate, in this position that I had a lot of support and I wasn't just Googling and cold calling and trying to check boxes. Everyone really organically came together to be able to have these conversations for one of the first times I think that we've seen in our industry in this capacity. So I'm just super humbled with the people that decided to hook their wagons to us.
Yeah. Good people connecting good people is foundational to good work happening. Truly believe that. And shout out to you have East Coast with Cicely Sierra of the Sandwich Ministry, Katina Smith, just calling me chef. You got fried chicken and caviar, Nick and Chai there in Detroit. You got Jasmine Chef of Tasting India in Chicago. You got Olma down in New Orleans, Caroline Glover and Carlin from Frosca in the Denver area, and then Nite out in Oakland. That is a serious lineup. This is no joke. This is like the best of the best of so many different aspects of storytelling, of culinary talent, of bringing heritage to the plate, of the joy and struggle and all of that.
In person. I cannot do it. We were talking with Cicely, and she was telling her story about Reem and Nite. I'm like, let's just take over their home.
I was going to mention.
Yes, I think we're all coming to Oakland. Cicely got us all fired up about what's happening in Oakland. So I was very excited to hear that as well. All right, Nite. Let's take a couple minutes. Let's talk menu. What is on the menu for this dinner? Can't wait to hear what Nyum Bai is going to be bringing to heritage to people's homes, bringing Cambodian culture into somebody's home. It's powerful.
I just want to say thanks for including me in this series. It's so cool to see Caroline and Cicely to be part of this. But so the menu is called Mai Sachuruk Set, and I picked this menu because it's the most popular Cambodian street food, and I feel like it's delicious, and it's all the things that I love to eat and what inspired me to start cooking Cambodian food as well. And the things that I also put in the menu are things that could be reheatable the next day or that night and still be as tasty. So the first dish is our main, which is the coconut pork with scallion oil, and it's basically thinly sliced pork loin where we kind of pound it out a little bit so it's nice and thin, and you marinate it in coconut milk, a lot of ground pepper, palm sugar, and garlic. So it's a really nice sweet and peppery pork dish. And then to kind of offset the sweet and the peppery, there's also going to be a pickled daikon, and that basically is our sweet pickle where we use some rice vinegar, a little sugar, some chilies, and ginger to go with that. And I'm also going to include a broth to go with it. Typically, this is eaten for breakfast, and
lunch and dinner or middle of the night.
Yes,
sounds about right. Yeah,
you would have the pork, and then there's some pickle, and then there's a side of broth. And this broth is coming from the Kateo Phnom Penh, the pork noodle broth that has been on the menu since day one. So that's the pork broth with crispy garlic, and usually you would eat the pork, take some rice, and slurp a little broth.
Nite, I gotta interrupt you and just tell you how unbelievably excited I am about your dinner for a couple reasons. One, you already are breaking down and making me feel like I understand this dish. I'm more connected to it because you're not just listing ingredients, right? And your ability to tell stories in that way cannot be understated. It is so important, and chefs need to be thinking about storytelling in the way that you're just doing now. You're telling a story. It's the street food. It's your personal relationship with it. It's the coconut milk and the palm sugar and introducing people to new ingredients. This is what we have to do. You can't just sell a bowl of noodles. It has to be this type of depth of storytelling at every level of every concept, every brand, and the fact that it's going to be on Halloween. So this is going to be an exciting night. Can't wait to check that out. We're only on dish number 1. What else are you serving for the dinner?
Well, to go with the pork, there's going to be ginger jasmine rice. So we eat most of our dishes with rice. It doesn't matter what it is. This is always like a bowl of rice. For comfort or whatever it is, you always need a bowl of rice.
Yes.
And this is ginger jasmine rice is very special to me because whenever my mom would make ginger chicken, she would saute the chicken, and then the residue that's left from the ginger and the garlic and the sauce is the best part. And then she would throw in the jasmine rice, saute that in, and then let it crisp up on the bottom a little bit. And so you have this amazing like ginger jasmine rice that's kind of crispy and, I don't know, chewy at the same time. So that will go with the pork. So you imagine like a bento box where you have jasmine rice, pork, pickled, and broth. So you kind of like eat a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and all together it just completes the meal.
All the things, and chicken and rice, especially Southeast Asia, is fundamental. And I can't wait to get to Oakland to try this. Khao Man Gai, the Thai style of that dish, is very much one of my favorite things. Absolutely. And so it's just quintessential chicken and rice, humble, simple, yet to your point,
delicious.
It's so delicious.
And
a lot of times they have like no color. It's like white on like kind of beige. You're just like, oh, it's so unbelievably good. And then some crispy chicken skin. We could geek out all day on this. How are you wrapping up this meal for everybody?
Well, and then because it's Halloween, I'm gonna make a sesame mochi ball filled with mung beans and palm sugar, but I think I'm gonna do some food coloring to make it either black or red. So when you bite into it, it'll ooze out.
Perfect.
100%.
Perfect. Look at you. You're even playing into American heritage and culture of Halloween. Like, might as well. What a great melting pot opportunity that is for you.
Yeah. If I were to celebrate any American holiday, it would be Halloween. So
the best. Absolutely. Oh, this is incredible. I am so excited. I am so jealous that I'm not in Oakland for this dinner. I want to make sure, and in the comments you'll find the links. Make sure you get to In the Weeds website /let's-party, and no matter where you are in the country, there is probably a dinner near you, so make sure you check out all of the dinners available. And if you're not in that market and you just want to come hang out with all of us and learn and be inspired and come on Nite's Night, come bring your costume, donate $5 to In the Weeds to just come and party with us would be amazing as well, and support all the work that's happening here on Nite. I'm really, really honored to have spoken with you, and now I need to get my ass out to Oakland because clearly there's amazing things happening out there. I'm excited about that. Nite, looking forward to your dinner on the 31st again, and just all the work that you're doing. We'll be talking a lot more, I'm sure. We'll go ahead and let you go. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good night. It was nice
Bye,
to see you. Bye.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's storytelling. That's key. Like, I was there, and especially obviously you and I being professionals in the industry, and so much of our audience is that, like, we're cooking it. I'm cooking it right alongside Nite as she's talking about it. I can feel it, the texture, I can smell it, evoking that kind of emotional connection and response. That's the whole game. That's what chefs, that's what the food and beverage industry needs to be focused on more and more, not just selling your burger. Their bowl of noodles. It has to be meaningful.
The way that she explained everything, I could feel the crispiness and the tanginess and the salty and the sweet and the and yada yada. And I'm thinking,
so good.
Like, do we need to go to Oakland to plan a party in Oakland? Like, that's what I think needs to happen. I
believe so. I kind of had this in my mind, was like, where are we going to end up? And I think we're ending up in Oakland. I think
we needs to go to Oakland, and then we'll plan a party to go back to Oakland.
Back to Oakland, yes. I think what ends up happening is this is like a road show. It's a whole variety show. We'll like live podcast there, and we'll have dinners, and we'll have all kinds of events going on, and a cocktail competition, and we just hit the road. We're going to Oakland. Well, then we're gonna hit Denver. Then we'll head down to New Orleans, up to Chicago, over to Baltimore. Don't forget Detroit, to Detroit, Baltimore, and finish in New York. And then we're all coming to your seaside shack to have a striped bass chowder party on the beach, and make sure that your dad's there. So
sure. Well, I mean, Jensen, just think about the conversations we're having in these major markets with people who are so inspiring and so talented and quote unquote have made it. Can you imagine the conversations that we have with folks in St. Louis or Minneapolis that aren't necessarily in the magazines or on a listicle? Like, these conversations are so powerful, and we've only just kind of like scooped the first bite. You know, we haven't really even dug into all of the other inspiring stories that we should be hearing.
All right, challenge for you and I, Elle. We need to be doing dinners, events, things like that in a city, in a town, in a market that currently you and I have never heard of. That there is some amazing small town in Oklahoma where 4 chefs have said we're planting our flag here, not going to the big market, because this is where we're from and this is who we are and this is what we believe in. And it is our job to go and find these amazing people, these amazing stories, this amazing talent. So we are going to be somewhere where we've never heard of today, or some place like Poughkeepsie where everyone's heard that because of a movie or something, but nobody actually knows where Poughkeepsie is unless you're from Poughkeepsie, right? Things like that. I want to go and find those. That is absolutely something I'm with you 100%. So we got work to do, Elle.
We're doing it.
Let's do it. All right, everybody. Elle Jarvis, founder of In the Weeds, out seaside in Mass right now. And check out Nite Yoon's dinner with Nyum Bai out in Oakland, October 31st. And check out the whole series. Links in the comments. Make sure that you get on it, or just hang out with us on the internet. Elle, let you go. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Cheers. All right, everyone. That is it for this episode. Best Served Podcast 349. Nite Yoon, Nyum Bai out in Oakland, doing incredible stuff. So inspiring. Such a pure storyteller. The food is just the proof that you are who you say you are. And I believe everything about what Nite is talking about, because it is so true to who she is, her family, her heritage. That's it. Appreciate you all. Cheers.